This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, hello. Happy 2025. So here we are, halfway through January. I hope it's going well for you guys. I have been in half hermit, half business mode. It's kind of how I start out the year. I love to take my time during the winter because it's, in my opinion, the inward time. Time for ourselves, time for our family, time to just coalesce before we start getting out there all the time, constantly, right? So everybody's different. Everybody has kind of their optimal times to be on and out and sharing and serving. Mine is not the winter. I am a summer baby, okay? So, what are you? Are you winter? Are you summer? When do you like to get things done? I'm curious. So, leave that in the comments. We are doing things a little differently this year. So, I was kind of wrestling with whether to keep my content pieces and inspiration. And I'd like to do that. And I also know there's so much more to talk about. So, I get excited about what else can I do, right? That's what I love about having my own business. I get to be creative, right? So for me, what that looks like this year, and give me plenty of feedback. If you're in full protest, I will hear you and I will respond to that. But what I'm thinking this year is that we'll focus on what the energies are for, what do they help us with, what do they build, is kind of how I've been thinking about it. What are the patterns? What are the things that keep us stuck in old habits and not moving forward into the things that we want to create, right? And then moving into how do we apply it? How do we apply it to our business? In what area is it a good way to think about the subject? So we can also touch on that. This is full moon in Cancer. So yay, full moon in Cancer. And so why I'm excited, it is the key 62, gate 62, um, and it's my sun sign. So my sun sign's number for the gene keys. So I know this one well, if you're wondering. If you were wondering, do we know about this one? Yes, I do. And so yes, so for Karen Curry Parker's Quantum Human Design, that is preparation, the gate of preparation. And for Gene Keys, Richard Rudd, that is the shadow of intellect, the gift of precision, and the city of impeccability. So what's that got to do with me, right? Like, why do I care? The reason why I think this is important is, well, it's part of the body graph. It is seated in ideas of DNA and the coding and what the code itself is meant for. And so in this one, it is this connection from the throat center to the ajna. And so it's about really how are we speaking our wisdom, our inspired ideas, how are we allowing them to be integrated into who we are, what we're doing, and how we're connecting with each other. And so what I like to get into around this time is I just want y'all to know that there's a whole chart of things going on in the full moon. And it's not just about Cancer, especially in full moon, you have the opposition that's always present in the sun, right? That's what causes a full moon. And so the other side of that is that Capricorn that we're in the energy of right now, who's having their birthdays and everything. I put up a birthday gem about the correlating sun sign for Capricorn, which is 61, which is also in my chart because it's part of that four setup. For those who know who human design, it is part of that cross, right? And so yes, and so that is part of what's going on, is part of this kind of when do I have time to fulfill and nurture myself and my ideas and what I want to create? When do I have time to persevere and keep pushing forward and climb that mountaintop it is this idea that something has to end in order for something to begin. That is, in general, this true for full moon, but especially right now because Pluto is also an opposite. Well, some would consider it an opposition. It's in Aquarius right now, but it's still this feeling of right up like on the other side next to the sun. So we're getting some of that feeling of wanting things just like to cut things off that are no longer serving us. So it is a good time to build new habits, build new things that nurture who we are, right? And so I don't really believe in New Year's resolutions in like the traditional way because we often just kind of fly by night it and don't really think about it. But if you're already doing personal growth, you already have a full understanding of what you want to grow into as the fullness of you, who you are, then it's a great time to establish that with the energies that are supporting us at this time. So to have fun, go at it. I think it's a great time to do it. And we kind of have to take those times as we get it. We have wonderful corresponding energies that are gonna really support us. And fulfill the full dream too, like because we have a nice little trine with Neptune that you don't have to really compromise because it might feel like a challenging time, but the truth is, it's like when things are this challenging, you might as well go for it, right? And then we have the conjunct of Mars that's also helping us to say like, yeah, just go for it, just keep going, keep in action, and then take your time as well. Also set time aside to nurture yourself. So that is really what is possible. So a deeper understanding of this energy, when we think about patterns, looks like this is a pattern that built or like it was built to recognize patterns. So that's part of what I do, right? I recognize the patterns in how people are acting and how they're showing up and what is working and what is not working. I love gathering different forms of data. I don't really consider myself an astrologer, weirdly enough, even though I am doing this and I've been doing this for years because I love gathering the data from all kinds of astrology. As you can see, I can't even pick one just for the 64, right? I like to use Gene Keys and I like to use human design. And that doesn't end there. I also like to look into the I Ching. I also like to look at Chinese astrology and Vedic astrology on occasion, depending on what I'm doing, right? And it goes on, right? I'm always gathering data. So it's like I just bring everything together to form my own way of working with it and speaking about it, right? And so that's just part of who I am, right? Because it's built into this energy. This is my sun sign. And then I like to speak, and like I rarely take a ton of notes. Even my notes right now, last year I was taking more notes than I did this year. And part of that is because I'd rather just talk to you than to like give you a formal speech about this. It's a lot of it is coming from my intuition. It's one of the reasons I got into astrology because I started having these just knowings and just from looking at the chart without Western chart astrology, without even knowing fully what everything that was on the chart meant. So there was something that was already connecting in just by using the tool. And that's how we find our tools of intuition, of magic, right? So when something just falls into place that easily, then you might as well encourage it, support that awesome thing that's already built inside you. So that's what I like to do is speak from that inspired knowing what can happen when I'm in that shadow energy um, is that I can't stop researching or I want more and more information, but it's no longer serving me. It's just like I just keep wanting to do more. Like I get into that pattern around this time of year because I'm pulling from all these different astrologies to plan my year as well. So I like have more than one planner. I have all of these different ways of recording my ideas and then the energies that support those ideas, right? And so, and ideally, I would line those up and it would all be perfectly aligned. But the truth is, half of it I forget. The part that I wrote down, I apply a lot of it in the beginning of the year, and then it kind of just becomes the background noise for the rest of the year, which has worked for me, by the way, if you're wondering. What happens is that I just have a general energy understanding. And so I tend to be attuned to the energy of the time because I'm doing this for every full moon. And so I get intuitive ideas, and then I realize, oh, wait, that matches the energy for this time without me necessarily having to be academic about it. I don't have to go and say, okay, now let's build an idea around cancer, or let's build an idea around this, right? Although in the beginning of the year, because I can't predict everything, it's nice to have it as a barometer because now I know it might be, it's just, I can't figure out what day I want to do something. So I might as well just use the days that look good according to the astrology, right? And I found that it does pack that extra punch, right? It does help me in ways like I'm not the best at getting everything perfect online. But what happens is that whatever energy is there to support me, I allow it to support me. And it often creates good results, right? And so I wish that for everybody, that they're going to put the work in, you might as well get that power packed edition that's the energy supporting the current time, right? So, what it takes to fully live into my genius is to prepare or to have a plan, which is what Karen Curry Parker talks about with quantum human design. I prepare. It's not like I don't have the information. But when it comes down to in the moment of execution, I let that be enough, and then I just go for what feels good, what I'm intuiting to the moment. I get present, hopefully get into my body, take the time to do that, and show up fully and just be in the moment and see what wants to come through, right? It could be something completely different. It often is. So with this, we have to like one of the things I love about astrology is it helps us to understand that we're all different and it's all good, right? It's all good. You don't have to make it wrong to be different than somebody else. So, and we can allow those things to support who we are and who we are being, and vice versa, letting the uniqueness of who we are do that for others. And so, I always like to talk about how is this helping us connect. And so, for here, how it helps people connect, I think, is to we get to understand each other when we start to have you ever had that idea when you're like a child and you want to make your own language with a sibling, or maybe you did? They say twins often do this, or just children who are really close in age. My older sister is 4 years older than me. My younger sister is way younger than me. So I never really had that opportunity. We always spoke a different language, right? We felt a little different. So, but this is the thing when I really get to know somebody, a partner in business or a client, I start to develop my own language when I'm working with them because everybody has a different way of processing. They have their own ideas, they have their own mindset, they have their own ideals, what things inspire and motivate them, right? So I do my best to allow myself to shift into their language so they are fully picking up on what I have to share. And then there's parts where I honor my own language, where it's just what's true for me, and then I can explain it more. If if I feel it's more accurate to use my language, I just go ahead and say it the way it's clear to me, and then I may expound in their language, right? And you would think this would make you really good at languages. Well, I'm really good at hearing the differences between languages. I'm really good. I've done some consulting even on like accent reduction and that kind of thing. And what makes me good at that is just being able to hear the nuance of the differences of what's going on and what's going on at the throat, at the body, at the mouth, tongue, so to speak. What's keeping them from feeling or the others from hearing them as standard English or something like this, right? And so I love an accent. So I've always enjoyed accents, but not everybody. wants them, and not everybody wants it to get in the way of their job or career progression. So I think it has been useful to do that work for those people who may need to acclimate to their work environment. So how do we apply it to our business? So one of the things to know is like how do I recognize that this energy is happening? Do you feel like this is a great time to find out, right? You're in your energy of the full moon of this. So have you felt in this day, maybe yesterday, maybe a couple of days before, you started to feel like you're getting a little obsessive about things, like you really wanted to make sure that it was the right way and that you just wanted to like pick one red shirt that you ended up going to 50 websites and finding like what kind of red is exactly the kind of red and what do they call it on the website, right? Like if you've ever gotten that obsessed, then you have a sense of what it looks like when you start really noticing the nuances of how something's evolving in patterns and how it's speaking to you, right? Like not every red is equal. Like this red, I feel more than I feel this red, right? So it can get obsessive. And when that happens, basically because we're not trusting ourselves and knowing and just being like, oh, I like that. I don't like that. Right. And being like, you know what? I think that I know enough about what I like that I would pick the first 5 stores minimum should be close to what I want. And if not, maybe I'll choose a different time to do this, right? Like not getting so obsessed that you start losing time, losing that energy to something else that wants to get done, right? And you can also see this I also see this as kind of like the new know it all. So, another kind of factor in what happens in that pattern recognition is that you start recognizing the patterns that work for other people and then you try to duplicate them, right? This can be a good thing, but it can get obsessive. So when we get obsessive about that, it's usually because we haven't embodied it. We don't really feel like we are truly in the knowingness of it information. So we can only rely on how other people are saying it. You probably have recognized this when they keep saying the same words over and over again. Um, you know, this is secret information no one has ever known before. What else have you seen? You've seen this on Instagram and the TikToks and all the things, right? Where somebody just starts copying something somebody else did, but hasn't really spent the time to know and experience it for themselves in that full wisdom. And that's where the genius lies in this energy is that it's not just intellectual, it's not just in your head. It's something that's felt in the heart and in the knowingness of our soul and our mind. Is kind of another way to think of that as the wholeness of who we understand ourselves to be as spirit, right? So in that case, when we aren't like overdoing that, we could that's the repressive side. The other side looks kind of like pedantic. It's this pedantic, this idea that you know, we can beat others down with what we know. So this often looks like feeling like you know all the answers, and so you keep giving information when people have tuned out and everything. But you feel like in order for you to be, not for people not to come after you, maybe that you feel like you have to um, keep proving yourself, right? Another way to do it is to ask questions of people that you know obviously more because you're asking really pointed questions that they may not be able to answer, really nuanced questions that are would take more than just a quick, attacking conversation for somebody to be able to like come with their own truth and surface that it's not giving that possibility or potential, right? So we do this all the time, and some of us do this really subtly to our clients or potential clients. Um, and it's one of the ways that people like kind of take power and take that energy so that they can get what they want, which is all we think about with power. And so we want to just remember, right? But not that power is bad, But if it's getting to the point where it's getting to these extremes, that it's actually being used out of anger or out of self kind of recrimination, not fully loving who we are, and letting that be enough, then we want to keep an eye on it, right? So if we're not fully trusting ourselves, we can over worry, over prepare, and just when we over prepare, basically we're taking ourselves out of the flow, because that full cycle, if you know about the way I talk about cycles, that seasonal cycle needs you, okay, you you go in and you nurture and you gather and you build energy and you build information, and then you give it out. And that's part of the natural cycle. And that's the time when you can flow, is when you breathe in, then you breathe out. And if you are interrupting that and you keep breathing in, breathing in, breathing in, this is how we get overwhelmed. This is why we have so much that we can't find enough clarity and focus on, right? So that's why it's better to to go with the flow. So yeah, take some information in and then share it. Find a way to share it, whether that's just with a friend or partner, love partner, or um, out with us, with the world, and let it serve how you are showing up and the things that you love, right? So the next portion of what our new 2025 um, you know, what I call it transits will look like is that, like, we're going to talk about what it means to build a legacy business or event. So this is one of my things that I love to do. I love planning, right? So I love planning for others. I love talking about, what do you want to do? What do you want to create? How can we make that happen? What does it look like to be supported while we're making that happen, so you don't burn yourself out or feel like you know that something's a lost cause, those things that stop us for creating the things that we're really passionate about. And so I was going to write that down, but I didn't. So I'll just intuit it. So the areas that we'll be thinking about is the same areas that pretty much anything that we create out in the world, invite others to, require us needs some sense of HR. Like, do we know who we have in our pocket? In our pocket, maybe a bad way, but like the people we have close to us, our friends, our cohorts, our partners, right? Like, who are our resources and who can help us be fully supported, nurtured, or even execute what we're doing. Marketing. So marketing is something about that front face. Like, what do I want people to best to know about me? What is that ultimate legacy idea for you? I think of this also as thought leadership. Do you already have a book out? Do you already have this idea of what you want to make sure you pass on in this lifetime, right? Sales is something that is about, like, having that conversation of, are we a fit? Are we a match? Do we want to do this work together, right? So, and then finance is about, what are our money resources? Am I taking care of those? Am I planting seeds into what I'm building, or am I taking everything back out, right? These are just good ideas. Like, it's the same thing for events, because usually if you're going to do an event, you'll probably do another event. And it's always a good idea to have an understanding of how much it takes to invest to make an event happen. And then, like, what does it look like to leave enough for the next event type of feeling, right? So that you kind of, you can save up for that, and you can save up through the business if you plan ahead, if you prepare, right? Management. So how are we managing? Where are mindsets around how we deal with each other within the organization? Fulfillment, which is sharing your product or service, or customer service. So, like, how are they receiving your product or service, and do they enjoy that experience? And then R&D, so research and development. I think this is especially important for those of us who are evolving, um, business owners, creatives, right? Because we're always learning. At least the people that I work with, we're always learning. If we're always stopping what we're doing in order to learn more, then we're not in the flow, like we talked about earlier. And so I think that's probably the best way to apply this full moon understanding here. what can we celebrate knowing about? What can we celebrate already achieving in this full moon? Let's throw a party for that. Throw a party for that. That has, in my household anyways, has been the theme that keeps coming up over energies over this winter. Is this, have we celebrated ourselves enough? Have we honored the work we put in and that we have kept going in these hard times? Have we, truly given ourselves our props for doing this tough work, right? Um, and then also, I think planning is a good thing to do for marketing because there's those collaborations that you might be joint venturing or joint partnering with others to bring awareness or energy around to something, right? Um, which reminds me, there are two events that are going to bring energy and awareness around in the month of January. We'll be doing our first Verve Vision podcast. We'll be live on the YouTubes and the Facebooks. And so that'll be the 23rd, I believe, the third, the Thursday before the last Thursday of January. And then there's also going to be my VIP day. So that on the 24th, I'll be having a VIP day that is going to be bringing together kind of the essence of my Oman's vocal resonance method and what it looks like to plan as a creative evolutionary being, right? So I have a different strategy than maybe is that straightforward, what they call it, smart goals type idea. I think it's cute. I love it, right? Obviously I love timing, I love dates. That's why I love astrology. And I don't know, I just have a giggle to myself when I think of smart goals. Um, I do think it's good to set a time. I just think that a lot of goals we don't even know what it takes to accomplish them. So it's better that we just know what we're about and when we're moving into them. So, anyways, planning is important for marketing, um, and as well as finance, right? As well as finance. I am not super familiar with human resources and HR, but what I know I have to do to support my own creative work. So this comes from everything from the concerts I've put together over the course of my life to my business and my business events. I do a summit in the early summer and the late fall every year for the last 4 years. So that takes a level of planning, right? Otherwise, I would be super overwhelmed and I probably wouldn't do it, right? Because it's a lot of work. Yeah, so that planning allows me to make it feel easy, not feel like I'm overwhelmed at any given part of the year. It's a little bit more show up time when I'm doing the events, but other than that, it feels pretty nice and easy to me because I like to plan. So I'm leaning on my strengths, right? Plan and prepare, right? So like, trust that you're attuned to what's necessary to be prepared, and trust that your alignment will inform you of everything you need. So again, I get a lot of these wonderful understandings from Karen Curry Parker and Richard Rudd of Gene Keys. Karen Curry Parker has her own system called Quantum Human Design. It's a function, like it's a basically an evolution of human design, feminine evolution. And like, yeah, so let this time, there's plenty of that nurturing energy of Cancer happening in this time. So lean into it and let yourself relax and know that you are exactly what a good mother would want, right? Exactly what we want. Your energy, your way of being, the way you like things to happen that feels good and in flow for you is what we need more of in the world. So you might as well go ahead and do more of that. So I will see you on the VIP day or at Verve Vision or at one of my other videos on this amazing channel. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your full moon in Cancer. I'll see you next time.